today's security good enough for tomorrow?
Clearly, no.
Super aggregator is the blood flowing to our veins.
Perhaps the set-top box is dead, but to be replaced by streamers.
Legacy always lasts longer than you think it will.
Drive customer experiences and create new opportunities for carriers to engage with their customers.
Open and free does not mean easy.
The network is like a living organism.
If I give you $100 million, what would you do with it?
Hello, 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 and welcome to our session this afternoon with the topic, is a video offering still relevant in 2023 for mid-sized and small operators and distributors? Welcome here. This is part of the Connecting the Dots track. Connecting the Dots is all about thought leaders, innovators, game changers who share their tips, insights, and learning. My name is Andy Waltenspiel. I'm running a Munich, Germany-based consultancy, and I brought some of my network and my customers here who brought their customers to do exactly that, connect the dots, connect people, and share some learnings. So, fantastic panel here. We will have to squeeze a bit, and I volunteer to stand, unless somebody else wants. So, David Hoffer from MCTV. Big applause for David. Jared Baumann from NCTC. Mario Rainville from Broadpeak. We're already taking 5 minutes just to announce everybody. And Jeremy Morrison from Vubiquity. Good. By the way, I have to apologize. The front row of lights is broken, so I hope you still see some of us. And we didn't want to wash the back light in light, because otherwise then we're even just silhouettes. So let's start with a short round of introduction. And maybe, David, you start. Just introduce yourself and your company, and then we go around the table.
Named David Hoffer. I'm Chief Operating Officer for Maslin Cable TV in Northeast Ohio. Most of our customers are based. I've been there for 25 years.
Jared Baumann, I'm the Vice President of Innovation and Technology for the National Content and Technology Cooperative, formerly known as the National Cable Television Cooperative, so the NCTC. And we represent about 34 million broadband subscribers in the United States. One of our members happens to be David here, so glad to be here.
Thank you. When I read that you changed your name, I did a post on LinkedIn and said, okay, now it's not only cutting cords, it's even cutting names. Yeah? And Mario.
Yeah, hi everyone, Mario Rainville. I'm Vice President of Sales for Broadpeak in North America. Broadpeak provides video processing technology for a service provider. So basically anything that has to do with video, packaging, and CDN. And we put together a platform for mid-size operators called PeakView TV. So we'll talk a little bit more about this later.
We'll explain what the acronym stands for, which I just learned 5 minutes ago. Jeremy.
Sure. Jeremy Morrison. I head up our, at Vubiquity. Vubiquity is an Amdocs company. Vubiquity has been providing all sorts of services to the cable and telco marketplace for VOD acquisition, distribution, linear acquisition and distribution for 20 plus years. I head up our linear group, kind of focused on that service offering in the US.
Can you hear as well all? Just, it's fine, loud enough? Perfect, because you need to get really close to the microphones. Okay, setting the scene, if I just repeat what was our synopsis for the panel: exploding content cost, fragmentation, complexity, competition must carry rule. The list is long, and you may be questioning to reduce the cost for video offering, or might even think to kill it, because somebody else is about to eat your lunch. Now, we're here to talk about a way out of that with an interesting concept and discuss, is a video offering still relevant? And if yes, why and how? Okay? So, streaming is growing. Is video still relevant? NCTC. You have more than 700 members.
Yeah.
What do you see? Is video growing, shrinking, dying?
Well, it's definitely not growing.
Okay.
Well, the question really comes down traditional video and the way people have traditionally consumed video, certainly everyone knows is changing. But at the same time, it's still important. I think if many of you sat in on the opening session and you heard, let's see, it was Comcast and Liberty Global both say, very boldly that video is still very important to them. And I would say that for the most part, I think if you were to ask most NCTC members, they would tell you that it's still very, important to them. Now, it's not the big money maker. It's, lots of things have changed. People are consuming it a lot differently now. But our objective really, we started as a cooperative that was all about the content rights and trying to reduce the cost of the content rights. And I think the NCTC has been very effective at that over the years. But even with that, we all know it's not turning around, right? It's still going that direction. So the other things we can do is how do we help in other ways? And so that's what we continue to look at, is how do you drive other cost out of that video chain?
And for you, David, how do you see video in MCTV?
Video is very relevant for us. Our revenue per unit's still $130, $140 a sub for video. 25% of our cash flow comes from video still. So it's very important to us that subscriber losses, we're all in the same business. We're losing 0.5% to 1.5% a month, and that's been going on for 2 or 3 years now. We see that continuing, and a lot of it isn't that people don't want linear to stop watching linear TV. It's the cost of the linear TV. So we look at our issue isn't people are dying. The older demographic loves linear TV, but our new subs that come on, we have a take rate of between 6 and 12%. So if we're going to ever grow TV again, it's how do we get the new subs, the younger generation, to watch TV.
Yeah,
It becomes very, very difficult.
So you mentioned some of the challenges, right? The younger audiences don't watch linear TV. The costs are not really shrinking. Let's go around the table. So what are the key, apart from that, are there other key challenges you face in video?
No, I mean, because we continue to take costs out of the network. The C-band monies helped immensely. We had a number of head ends that we used that money to shut down and build fiber routes to connect. So we went from probably 7 or 8 head ends down to 1 master head end now. So that's driven costs out. And the biggest challenge is getting the younger generation to watch TV. That's.
Well, I would say too, sorry, Jeremy.
No.
That you have all these big content houses and you have your Disneys and, whoever it is, right? Well, they all have their own apps that they put massive money behind, massive marketing dollars behind promoting those apps, and the way you consume video is shifting more and more towards that. And so, who knows where that world will end up? I mean, there's lots of speculation. I mean, we all, I think, have been frustrated by saying, hey, I want to try to watch this show, and now trying to figure out what it's on. Which of my apps? Where is it? Kind of thing. Versus where it used to be, you went to your, you went to your TV and you found, the video on demand option, or, whatever it may be. Maybe you even did your TV everywhere kind of piece through your subscription from your operator and got to the content that way. Well, it's not quite as clean now.
No, and the cord cutting the pendulum is swinging the wrong way. Fragmentation is rising. The time it takes you to find something that you want to watch is increasing, and you might not even know where to look because there's no cross search often. But Jeremy.
Yeah, so I find it interesting. When I started in this business at what was at that point called Avail Media, to TVN, to Vubiquity. You know, our name kept changing, but also the market that we served with our linear service. When we started this business, it was about helping telcos get into the video business so they could offer a triple play to compete against against cable operators. And you know, where it's now evolved to is, okay, now all of them across the board are trying to figure out, okay, with shrinking dollars, how do I get to an iPad, get to every device out there? How do I do streaming? How do I have more channels? How do I optimize my cable distribution network so that whether they're streaming HBO Go or, you know, sorry, HBO Go, Legacy, streaming whatever app it is or watching my own TV service, it's not standalone bandwidth, but it's all mixed together. Again, all of this time with shrinking bandwidth, you know, with shrinking revenue dollars. So we're sitting here and continuing to evolve and say, look, you have to get into streaming. You gotta let the old world go of your broadcast network. You've gotta maybe not operate a head end because it's hard to find guys to operate. You know, who wants to clean off snow off your antennas anymore? Is that kind of core to your business anymore? You know, dealing with Galaxy 15 dying and, you know, chasing around to move satellites around. It's just, you know, this whole thing of running a video head end and offering the services and dealing with all the new complexities, it's just too much based on where people are at today and what the video business is. So it's not, you know, do I need to offer it? Yes, most people consider that you need to offer it, but do I still want to do a lot of this on my own? And that's the question that we help a lot of customers answer. And how do we come in and kind of help them answer? No, it's my data business, it's maybe my reselling OTT app business, it's all of these other things that are growth that I want to focus on. At the same time, I got to do this. How do I do it most effectively, and who can help me get there?
Yeah, I think Mario can help.
Yeah. I want to chime in a little bit here.
Please.
So give me 30 minutes, I'll be done. No, seriously, to complete what you were doing, so our business at Broadpeak basically is exactly what you're talking about. You know, what we see to our customers is they have a legacy system. They still have a lot of linear TV service. They have cable systems with QuamBox and things like this, and they face tremendous competition from services, OTT services like Amazon Prime, YouTube TV, Hulu here in the US. And, you know, what we see from those customers is we don't think that they can compete with that without the right set of tools. And if they want the right set of tools, they need to equip themselves with the right ABR streaming technology. They want to be able to go multi-screen. They want to be able to do all of this to compete. And, you know, to do that, it costs money. They have to deploy new ABR streaming head-end, 200 channels head-end. That's complicated. So, you know, what we're saying basically is there's ways to do that very inexpensively, right? So what we've done with Vubiquity, for example, is we put together a national head-end, a 350 channel head-end where they can share the cost of that head-end. So they no longer need to deploy anything locally. All those operators can share the cost of that head-end, reduce their cost at the same time, get out of the hardware business, right? And be able to deploy and compete now with the right set of tools. So when they face competition from an OTT provider, now they can respond with a managed service, and you know, they're not only a broadband provider, they can bundle video and data and compete properly, you know, with an ABR service.
So what I hear you saying is the world is not dying, it's changing, linear is going down and streaming is growing up. In several countries in Europe, that's exactly the same. Linear is not dead, although some people talk about the end of TV and mean linear, but it's not dead. And if we look at the sum of both, it's actually sometimes growing. So how is it in your networks, or maybe we talk about the US, linear going down, streaming up. Do you know how the sum is developing, the sum of both? TV in any shape or form, whether it's linear or streaming?
Streaming bandwidth continues to go up exponentially. You know, the new big driver is Amazon Prime with Thursday Night Football. I mean, we watch our network stats, and that probably last Thursday, when we didn't use their cache server, we did it on our own to see what type of bandwidth really goes through. It probably added 15, 20%
wow.
in bandwidth usage that night. So
Single event.
Single
A
event.
single event.
Yeah, so that's only going to get worse and worse as far as network usage because somebody else is going to want NFL rights or Major League Baseball rights or NBA or NHL rights. So that's really a huge driver of bandwidth usage. And people want live sports.
And news.
Yes.
And kids, stuff and everything. So, but that seems to almost answer, and thank you, we finished 24 minutes early, answer the question, is a video offering still relevant? Yes, but, all right? What is the but? I need to do it the right way, and the old way is not the right way anymore. So what do I have to do if I want to be able to compete with time to market that is competitive, with costs that are competitive? What are the steps I need to do? Mario.
Yeah, so as I said before, if you have to equip yourself with the right type of technology, you know, and you know, what was mentioned here on Thursday Night Football, it's another challenge as you see more and more over-the-top vendor getting exclusive right for sports. It's getting problematic for last mile ISPs or cable operator. It creates tremendous stress on the last mile network. And I think, as you mentioned, we'll see that more and more. So there's ways to flatten those curves using technology on the last mile. I'll give you example. You know, in Europe, we have a three-way partnership, for example, at Broadpeak, where we deployed a way to do multicast adaptive bit rates, and we deployed that on the Telecom Italian network. So when the zone got the exclusive right to Series A soccer in Italy, there was tremendous stress on the Telecom Italian network. We deployed a multicast ABR technology. That way we were able to send only one stream on the network, and it was a three-way partnership that way. So we believe, for example, this is one of the tools that could be used on ISP network to work in conjunction where the service provider could work with an Amazon Prime, for example, to be able to, you know, that could be like a win-win situation in some cases.
No, we would definitely love that. You know, the multicast is definitely a much better avenue for bandwidth usage for video. The unicast is horrible.
Exact. So you know, in that case, you know, that type of technology could be used where you have, you know, a partnership with the OTT provider. They're getting good service on delivery. As you see, there was a lot of bad press related to Thursday Night Football, and that could be a win-win situation for everybody. But that's an example of a use case that worked pretty well with the last mile and using technology like that to help, right? Because as you mentioned, I think that it's just going to go in that direction. The stakes are very high for live sports, and everybody is willing to pay a lot of money to get exclusive rights. And Thursday night, I think in preseason game, some games were still on broadcast television in local markets. So that saved a little bit, right? But when it goes exclusively on streaming, it becomes a problem, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think, I'm sorry. I think as an operator, though, you know, getting into the new world, you got to be really careful and think through what's your plan and who are your customers. So, you know, we service through our VOD distribution almost every operator that's out there, and
including us.
But I recently, you know, I'm not going to name names, but we watched a tier 2 operator lose almost 50% of their subscriber base when they pushed forward we're just going to streaming. We're dropping set-top boxes, and literally half a pretty significantly sized operator lost because customers left. And so, because in their environment and their customer base, a lot wanted streaming. They needed it for the next gen, but there was a big part of their market that still wanted a set-top box and still wanted to access TV the traditional way. And so I think you got to be careful. You got to figure out what's a solution that still lets you support both your legacy and kind of get into the new world so you can play with it. you want to not be forced to move people at a certain time frame. You got to figure out what is right for your customer base. How are you going to get them over and figure out that plan? It's educate. It's a lot of education. Here's what an app looks like. You can walk into somebody who's a little bit older, who's maybe not so familiar with the smart TV, and maybe everyone in this room can say, great, I'll download that app and start watching, but that's not a lot of the people that are paying that triple play price, and you don't want to lose them either. So, think about this. This is the beginning of a path to get into streaming and to save costs and plan that out and make sure whoever you're partnering with and solutions you're going down lets you take that at the path that you want to take and at your pace for your marketplace.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. My 84-year-old mother is not going to watch it via smart TV. It's just not going to happen.
Right, and you don't want to lose that revenue.
Well, at least my mom.
I was going to say, so I had personal experience with an adaptive bitrate streaming kind of platform and used it. Actually did some testing with it and had my mother-in-law who had early onset dementia, and she actually flipped from a traditional cable set-top box world to this streaming world using a Roku device, and she actually did it very easily. Like
with voice or using?
She didn't do any voice. She didn't do any voice. She just, because it's a very simple remote, and so it takes a little bit of playing around with, and there might have been a couple phone calls that
you're probably good at tech support.
She did it.
That's how it works. So let's talk about Peak View. I guess you can get it. Broadpeak and Vubiquity. So Peak View. I was waiting for them to talk about it, so now I need to ask them. So what is Peak View and what has it to do with these gentlemen?
You want to go?
Sure. At a high level, we've taken the next step with our linear distribution service to enable streaming. And what that really means is that we've, in conjunction with Broadpeak, put in a national head end, an origin environment, so that we can take all of our multi-bit rate streaming feeds and put them there and allow an operator to avoid significant capital and operational expense and software expense with installing a solution at their head end. And we have a solution that if you're a super small operator, under 1,000 subscribers, you don't even need any hardware in your site. You can just start, sign up for a software SaaS platform and sign up for our hosted platform together, and you can get going and you can start offering streaming, until you start building it up, until you start getting to a place that maybe you want to then migrate more and more at your site, or you can kind of balance those two solutions. And very recently, we'll put out some press pretty soon, we've now got a relationship with the NCTC where you can straight through your NCTC membership sign up for and have all of these services, without any type of new agreement.
So you would still need a middleware. You'd need to select a middleware provider, and I always like to say, bring your own middleware, kind of thing. And then it allows you to get out of this world of dealing with all your old legacy head-end stuff. And we have continued to hear some interest from varied members. Like, the NCTC represents guys that literally have a couple hundred, video and broadband subs to, a couple million broadband and video subs. And it doesn't really seem to matter what size you are. There is some interest in doing these kinds of things. So they're starting to say, do I really even need to be in this business anymore? Do I need to, I still want to offer video. I'm not getting out of the video game yet. Maybe I thought I was, I remember like 4 or 5 years ago, everyone said in 5 years they'd be out of video.
Yeah, when it's time to replace the head end, I stop.
Yeah, and yes, I've heard that exact thing multiple times, many times. Maybe I even said it one time when I used to be an operator. But where you're so like, I'm not gonna jump, to do that again. And so now people are realizing, all right, we're already at this time frame. We're not really ready to get out of video. We're not doing it. But do I want to spend $1 million or $2 million, or maybe if you're a smaller, maybe $500,000, on capital expenditure to go and refit everything? And do I still want to have my 5 or 6 or 12 or 15 guys that are assigned to maintaining all that equipment? And do I want to pay for the power to maintain all that equipment? And you can go on and on and on with the story, and before you know it, a solution that is a cloud-based, sort of SaaS model, like setup just makes a lot of sense. And I mean, I'm talking, even had a conversation not long ago with one of our larger members, and they'd been doing it for a long time, and we're doing a move like this, and they made the argument so cleanly and so clearly that it was like, well, should have done this forever ago. It just makes sense. And so I'm excited to be able to have this option for NCTC members to be able to easily, quickly sign in and do this. We've had a long-term relationship with Vubiquity, and this is our first foray sort of with the Broadpeak side, but we are going to do this all through a Vubiquity, sort of contract relationship piece, and they will all work together nicely, I'm sure.
But I find it interesting. I had, on the drive down, I had to pull over twice yesterday from upstate New York to here for 2 different sales phone calls, and one was somebody with 200 subscribers, and one was somebody with about 30,000 subscribers. And both of them are the exact same pains of, I got to maintain these antennas, I got to have all these dishes, I want to get streaming and get things out there and deliver in new ways, and I don't want to do any of it myself anymore, because this is not, owning antennas and wiping snow off of them is not my core business, or dealing with the hurricanes that blow them around, depending on where they are. It's not my business anymore. But, prior to the last couple of years where fiber became cheaper and cheaper to do this kind of distribution, this wasn't an option. I mean, satellite exists for video because back in the day, you couldn't send video over a telephone wire or, without hundreds of thousands of dollars of cost. Now you can buy connectivity for $1,000 across the country for, a 10 gig circuit. It's just everything has changed and come down in cost.
Jeremy's stealing my thunder. So that's,
I'm sorry. Go.
That is one of the things that's been fun. So we've worked with Jeremy and Doug a lot with this, and that is one of the things. So the NCTC a number of years ago got into the sort of helping members solve for their broadband connectivity issues. Is one of the problems that a lot of our, really, unless you're some of the biggest of the members, they were frankly sort of, it was tough. Like, we were vastly being overcharged, our members were, for these services. We drove those costs down, and now we are talking about, we can, through the NCTC, any member can come to us. They can work with Steve Beardsley's team. I think I saw Steve in here a little bit ago. But they can work with Steve Beardsley's team on our side, and for about $1,000, almost anywhere in the country, you can get to the Vubiquity Broadpeak services.
So,
and that's awesome, because it used to be that was your biggest cost to get into this. A lot of times, your bill to connect to Jeremy was more expensive than Jeremy, which it just seems ridiculous.
Yeah. So, it's becoming easy with very low barriers to entry to offer a video service. Some might not even have a video service of your members, right? Or change what you have. It's time to shut down the head end, so you sign up there. Time to market. So great. What else? What other cool stuff does it enable? What about advertising? I mean, that's saving cost is one thing, keeping subscribers another thing. How can I monetize? Does it help me to monetize better as well? Can I do fast channels?
Yeah, okay, so that's another option.
Go for it.
Yeah, that would be quick. No, okay, so you mentioned it, right? So you remove the upfront cost of setting up a local head-in. So that's when you change the business model because you don't have an upfront cost and you have a per subscriber cost. So you did a lot to the business model. Then in the platform, okay, now it's a SaaS-based platform, it's hosted. So yeah, you have the ability perhaps to sell, to set up fast channels. The platform, okay, because it's ABR, on the technology side, adaptive bitrate is a playlist-based delivery mechanism that allows you to do a lot of manifest manipulation, which is ad insertion, basically. So there's a lot of potential for monetizing the content and doing ad insertion and content replacement. Mm-hmm. So today we manage blackouts with the platform a lot easier than it's done in traditional system. There's a lot of potential for targeted ad insertion in a platform like that. A lot easier. It's already built in the technology, basically, right? Okay. So there's a lot of potential in that way. Launching your own fast channel and enabling ad insertion on the platform, we see that as a big potential, additional revenue stream generator for that, for sure.
And not only the new revenue, but these new platforms, again, just streaming in general, the platforms, whether it's us or whoever, you know, you can now really cost effectively add your local football games and, you know, store local games on demand or your local school programs or whatever, and make that content available through that single TV interface, that it's not a website over here, but it's what that user is experiencing every day, that they can tune to all these other types of channels, which makes you as an operator much stickier than them just going over to YouTube where they're only seeing national content. And you know, to do that in a legacy environment, while some of them was somewhat possible, once you move everything to streaming, anything's possible. To keep just an open mind of first get the advertising revenue, then add some VOD if you weren't doing it already with some advertising on it, and then add local and content that's specific to your environment. Even ethnic channels, you know, we carry now 40 plus religious channels because people keep asking that, you know, different parts of the country and different places, they want different versions of different content. You can have an unlimited number of channels once you move into this environment that, you know, helps you attract those niche users that might not be a good fit for the OTT operators who are really just trying to figure out with their programs. I want the masses. Here's my offering. It's for the masses. You can now do kind of whatever you want.
So Jeremy just hit on something. So we don't have a middleware representative here on the stage, but it is one of the things that I think is so important is for ISPs to be able to, when they're offering video, to be, you cannot be stuck in the past. And I think I might have joked with the panel beforehand when we did a pre-call that I used to use this, I used to use a slide when I used to talk about this when we were making the transition, and it was like a cartoon, a bunch of cartoon dinosaurs, and they were dancing around in the tar pits. And it's like, you do not want to be one of those dinosaurs because ultimately you are going to die and you are going to lose those customers at some point, because there is going to be a competitor that's going to come in with a good broadband offering as well that is going to have a more advanced and more modern video offering that's going to be much more appealing. And so one of the things with a great middleware platform is that it's this very fast innovation cycle where, you know, if you're in, you know, a traditional world, a traditional set-top box world, that might be the same experience you had 8 years ago, 9, 10 years ago maybe.
Yep.
Well, video and the way we've consumed and the way most people consume video has changed dramatically in 10 years. And you want to make sure that you are in this, you know, environment where you're able to change and move as quickly as the rest of the world is moving so that you're not getting left behind.
Yeah. I want to hear from the audience. So we do a little poll. Who is already moving or considering to move to streaming TV? Hands up. Even if you're Comcast, you can raise a hand. Huh? Okay. Who is planning to do it in the next 1 to 2 years? Okay. Who thinks QAM video is still alive in 10 years? Okay, and maybe in certain geography that might be the case. Okay, so there is sense in the audience, in the market, that there is a need to move sooner or later, but there is the need. You have a fantastic offer, it seems, that addresses 700 members of all different sizes. Sounds great. I want to open the floor also for audience questions. So we have a standing microphone here. Anybody has a question, don't be shy, we don't bite. Come up. Please say your name and your company and shoot your question.
Hello, good afternoon. Juan Medero from Liberty Communications. We run a cable company in Puerto Rico. So the question is, you did not talk about the app, either on the phone or a CPE. Is it integrated in Roku, Apple TV? You know, what is it? Samsung? You know, what is your environment on the app side? You know, for the product.
So I can probably jump in a little bit here. So that's where we're really talking about the middleware side. So you really select the middleware element of this, and the middleware could be, you know, name a company, and they're going to, you know, it can be Minerva, SBL, Nagra, you could keep naming those, right? And that's where the app side comes into this. So they are effectively the end user experience. And then really what we're talking about, I think from these guys, and they'll let you say your own parts, but is really how that video, how the source is coming to the middleware. And so it's really about being able to turn down the actual head-end elements, and then you're using a middleware provider to actually provide the app side of it.
Yeah. MCTV, we chose for no other reason. I was the only person in the marketplace at the time, SBO in-house, and they partner very, very well with Broadpeak. It was a pretty good relationship with both parties.
So yeah, so basically for me, I see ourselves as a data plane provider. So, so you provide basically the origin and the CDN part of it. And it's integrated with leading middleware provider. And we have open interface to that. So it's integrated with most of the middleware provider in the market. And we think that it's an advantage, as Jared mentioned, for the member to be able to pick the UI that they want, the middleware that they want. They all offer a different, different type of offering, basically, if you will, or different, user interface, a different device that they support, and all of that. So I think you have a selection, a pretty wide selection in the market today on this.
And that's what I mean. We've stayed for the 15 years we've been doing this. We've always stayed out of the middleware because people run one, or they run multiple, or they have different systems, and everyone should. I'm preaching, but I believe a company should do what it does best. We're the transport piece, and PeakView Broadpeak is our, does the origin, does the caching, really knows how to do ad insertion, knows their components of it. There's a lot to the middleware, to the client side, to the apps. It's your perspective on what might be nicer and what might be best for your environment, and we don't want to dictate that. So yeah. We've got launched customers today on the PeakView platform with Nagra, with Minerva, with SBL, with launching with some with 24i, with MediaKind, with Innovative Systems, with MWare. We got customers using all of those different platforms. So whatever you want.
I mean, just one question. You sit here with NCTC, but it's not exclusive. So other operators have access to PeakView as well? Yes,
oh,
no? Am I asking the wrong question?
We'll sell to anybody. Yes. Sure.
We have time for.
If you want to become a member and work with us, then you can come work with.
So now it becomes a competition.
Well. So. Yes.
One more question.
Yes, Michael Robinson with MCTV. My biggest concern with the streaming as a platform is that the fact we need the NCTC to help us get the rights to stream outside of the house. Because our real problem, we've solved the middleware issue. We've solved the black backplane issue. We've got a product that stood up, but the customers want to watch streaming outside of the home. So that is the biggest concern I see with everybody on this project.
Yeah, ultimately, right, so at least for most of the NCTC member companies, right, so they are receiving their rights, the content rights from the deals the NCTC has done with the different content providers, and they sign into those. Unfortunately, most of those content providers have been very stingy in allowing for a lot of those extra rights outside the home. They've stayed very traditional and have continued to do that and not been as flexible as we'd like. It is a well-known issue for us, and it's something we're trying to address. I think we will continue to try to address it. I don't know that I could say that we have anything imminent to fix that yet, but it is a continual discussion. It's an important topic for Lou Borelli, our CEO, and he's been working a lot with Judy Micah on that project. So I know I'm seeing several NCTC members here in the room, so you know some of these names. I apologize for everyone else. You're probably wondering, I'm just saying random names, but good people that are working on the project and those problems.
And the technology that's used to stream on net is the same that will be used to stream out of the home, right? So It's not technology, it's more like, it's more content rights issue.
It's all content.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and as Michael said, it becomes tough to compete against YouTube TV and some of the other over-the-top streamers because we can't offer that product to go watch the game in the bar or at your neighbor's house or wherever. Our service is tied to a home.
So you see that red blinking light, it means, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but you know these two gentlemen. If you're an NCTC member, find them, ask them all the questions. They will end up with Mario and Jeremy and will be fixed, as long as it's technology. Content, Lou is the man. Thank you, gentlemen, very much. A big applause for them. Great discussion.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you for being here as well. And if you're interested in the future of TV, you should stay because we have Liberty Latin America, RDK, and CTS here to talk about the future of TV in 10 minutes.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for being with us. Have a great day.